U.S. Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker told the Wall Street Journal on Tuesday that Chinese officials have warned they will retaliate against Washington if President-elect Donald Trump follows through on his campaign promise to impose tariffs on Beijing.
But in 2016, China becomes the great economic leader. Even 2016, we will not be the world leader anymore. We have been always. But in 2016, China becomes the great economic leader.
Mr. Curtis, are there programs that can be used to secretly fix elections? Yes.
This is absolutely Orwellian. I mean, it's talking about Big Brother looking over your shoulder at absolutely everything you do.
You know, it's an authoritarian approach.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
The latest technology for identifying people when they make purchases is actually the implantable chip that you can actually embed directly into human flesh.
Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? You will rule on that, mark my words.
A chip in everybody would be the universal monetary system par excellence. Because there'd be no escape from it.
Americans have been taught to expect their salvation from government instead of recognizing government as the most dangerous threat they'll face in their lives.
It is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated by government against the working men and women of America.
It's organized crime. All you do is you call the Republicans the Genoveses, and you call the Democrats the Gambinos.
So, this footage is just absurdly obvious. The clouds behind the sun. I've sped it up. I've got it at 4x speed just to make this more palatable. You really don't need to see it in real time. I can put up an unedited version of this if people like. It's a little bit easier to watch at this speed because it's a little over 13 minutes of footage right here. So right now when the sun's up high, it's a lot brighter and overpowering, and as it gets lower, it gets dimmer, it's a lot easier to focus in on and see. But I could see already that it was getting into the clouds, and I wanted to capture this. You'll see as it descends, the clarity picks up. So you're going to see the clouds sort of wrapping around the edges of the sun right here. I mean, sun is a ball. If that was a ball floating in water, that's like the water lapping up over the edges of it. You can see how the sun is really dissecting the clouds right there. It's not just overpowering because of the brightness. You can see the tentacles of clouds reaching into the sun ball. You can see the hot spot that it's creating on a layer of clouds just beneath it there. The sun's not a big fiery nuclear furnace. A lot of people say, but it would heat up the clouds and it would burn them up. It doesn't. It's not what we were told. Look around the edges where you see, clouds, and then you see the sun travel over it. That means the cloud is behind the sun. This one's really obvious. Look at that. The one below it. Goodbye. And you'll see once the sun gets past, there's the cloud again. so let's have a little fun with this clip. And here you can see the clouds behind the sun there. Backwards. Oh, look at it go across those clouds. And up into those clouds. Clouds in front, clouds behind. Yeah, see this? I'm just going to take this back and forth a few times here. The sun's not obscuring the clouds. It's in front of them right there. Wait, how obvious does it get? Clouds are behind the sun. While people seem to be grasping that there can be clouds behind the sun, birds behind the sun seems to be troubling to a lot of people. I'm going to keep putting up all the footage that I get. I know it's hard to understand. We've been taught that it's a big fiery nuclear fusion ball, but it's not.
The idea there is to put them into, you can weave them into clothing labels, you can put them into the seams of fabric, you can put them into shoes. There is ultimately a plan to use them to replace the barcode. And that's how you wind up with literally every object containing one. Once that happens, you can not only be tracked through the things that you buy, you own, you wear, or you carry, but as you walk through the doorway, now an inventory of everything you're wearing and carrying can be made. And because RFID tags, RFID energy, radio frequency energy, travels through the things we normally rely on to protect our privacy, like plastic or fabric or leather, it means that someone would be able to inventory the contents of your backpack, the contents of a woman's purse, everything in your pockets, all the way down to the size and color of your underwear. So that's sort of the first risk, is tagging products. The second risk is tagging people. And that breaks down into two different ways that the RFID industry is looking to do that. One of them is through things that you would carry mandated by law, such as a driver's license, a passport. In some countries, they're actually mandating the use of RFID tagged identity documents that people have to carry, like China, where China was the biggest RFID market on the globe last year, ordering over 1 billion RFID chips to place in the pockets, wallets, backpacks, and purses of the Chinese citizens, so that their communist government can simply point a reader device at someone walking down the street and identify that individual. In China, it's actually quite chilling. When you look at what they're doing, they've actually linked up those RFID chips in the ID cards with information that ranges from someone's employment background, their educational history, their reproductive history, even their landlord's name and phone number. And China right now is experimenting with these surveillance cities. It's begun with the city of Shenzhen, China, where they've literally rigged the entire city with all sorts of surveillance devices, everything from video cameras, surveillance cameras, hidden cameras, all the way down to RFID readers positioned in strategic locations so they can track people. So that's sort of a direction that we're moving, is using this literally and very specifically to track people. Well, the Real ID program, I think, for anyone who cares about liberty and is concerned about intrusive Big Brother government is really a nightmare. The idea is for every American citizen to carry a driver's license that would be controlled not by their individual state and their individual Department of Motor Vehicles, as is the case today, but would actually be controlled by the Department of Homeland Security. So what we're in essence talking about is a national ID card, very similar to what's being done in communist countries like China. The Department of Homeland Security taking control of driver's licenses means that we would have a federal database containing enormous amounts of information about individuals, and that information is not only subject to Big Brother abuse, certainly, for anyone I think who follows our issues I think would immediately be aware of that, but it's also subject to abuse by hackers and criminals, because when you have low-hanging fruit of a database of all of the information on American citizens in a single location, all it takes is for one determined hacker or one huge colossal screw-up on the part of somebody for all of that information. If they wanted to, the government could simply pose as yet another person interested in getting the information, mill around the crowd with an RFID reader in their backpack, and collect these unique ID numbers for every single person at that event, and then put them on a watch list. And simply by walking through the crowd with a reader device, they could download scores, dozens, hundreds of unique ID numbers from these individuals, and then immediately one-to-one identify them through this federal government database of who they are. Not just who they are, where they live, with their eye color and their height and their date of birth and their place of birth, and every other piece of information that would be connected with an identification to educate them and let them know, listen, what you've just put in your wallet is not just an easy way to cross the border. What you've just put in your wallet is a remotely readable tracking device, and here are the dangers of it. So people don't understand that. I think until we get that level of understanding, and of course there's a second piece to it too, is people need to understand that government is not necessarily their friend.
I have nothing against China. I just hate that their leaders are so much smarter than our leaders. 2016, we will not be the world leader anymore. We have been always. But in 2016, China becomes the great economic leader.